This is a comparison between the DJI Mini 3 Pro versus the Mavic 3 for photography. One of them costs more than twice the price of the other. I know that somebody is going to say, what is the point of this comparison? It's like comparing a Ford to a Lamborghini. Of course, I could compare the Mini 3 against the Mini 3, but after careful analysis, I would not find it extremely exciting. I'm sure a lot of users will find this head-to-head interesting, for many reasons. And after all, the Mini 3 is the only one named Pro. I will not go here in depth into the specs of the two drones, as I already treated it in my specific photography analysis of the two models. I will publish a link at the end of this one. I know that most of you want to see some nice pictures, and I'm gonna show you a lot of them later on. The Mini 3 has a 0.77-inch CMOS sensor, with a fixed aperture of f1.7 and a real photo resolution of 12 megapixels. The Mini 3 has the added benefit of shooting vertical photos and videos. It is a feature that I really appreciate for extra creativity in photography. In the specs, the photo resolution of the Mini 3 Pro is often stated as 48 megapixel, but it is quite misleading. There is a 48 megapixel mode, but it is a bit of a marketing gimmick. The quad-layer sensor is capable of splitting each pixel into 4 smaller ones, therefore creating a sort of 48 megapixel resolution. But the size of each pixel is so small that the benefits are very limited compared to the 12 megapixel resolution, nothing to do with a real resolution 4 times bigger. Also, in the case of the Mini 3 Pro, the 48 megapixel files show a gigantic dose of chromatic noise in the shadows, in situations of high dynamic range. Due to the very large aperture, the Mini 3 is the only drone I've tried that can reach the limits of exposures. In situations of very strong light, especially when shooting against the sun, the image is too bright, even with a base ISO and the fastest shutter speed. I would recommend using a set of ND filters to solve the issue. The Mavic 3 has a much bigger 1/3 of an inch sensor, which is 1.33 inches, with variable aperture from f2.8 to f11. It can shoot photos at a real resolution of 20 megapixels. It also has a dual lens system with a second telephoto lens with a field of view of 15 degrees, equivalent to 162 mm, a half an inch sensor and a fixed aperture of f4.4. The Mavic 3 is the only prosumer drone equipped with a dual lens system. The telephoto lens was a bit of the forgotten feature of this drone, but I could see a huge potential for it. After the latest firmware upgrade, it is now possible to shoot in RAW format and to use manual exposure. And the results are excellent. Different users have different needs, but for my purposes, shooting videos and photos professionally, I find that the telephoto lens is worth the difference in price, even if everything else was the same. The night conditions are the worst possible. In Sicily from June to October is roasting hot, with a huge amount of humidity. It is hard to even see the line between the sea and the sky. I never shoot footage or photos during the summer here, but for the purpose of a comparison, it is actually a good thing. In good light, all cameras tend to show excellent results, while difficult conditions really show the difference between the two models. The Mini 3 Pro is certainly not a resolution beast. The image is quite good, but it could certainly do with a bit of extra detail. The color rendition is quite nice. Under these conditions I find the quality of the images more than decent, but nothing to write home about. The Mavic 3 has much more detail, and this is not surprising given the much bigger sensor and the higher resolution of 20 megapixels. The color range is also much richer. Under this condition, for me, it is a big win for the big boy. By turning the camera down towards the ground, we take the sky out of the question and can concentrate on detail and color rendition. Once again, we notice more detail in the images shot with the Mavic 3. Shooting in the direction of the sun is the worst torture for a camera, as the dynamic range is extreme. The sensor and the lens are pushed to their limits. With the Mavic 3 the colors are again a thing of beauty. Getting closer to the sun we notice that there are no nasty flares or loss of detail and resolution around the sun. DJI has recently put a lot of care in the quality of the lens in the whole new line, with special attention to the flagship model. But when we get the sun into the frame, the Mavic 3 has a tendency to develop a strong chromatic noise in the shadows. Way too much to be correct by a denoiser. This is a bit surprising considering the very large sensor. We can improve things by shooting 5 automatic exposure bracketing photos and merging them to HDR. You can see the difference compared to the single photo. The Mini 3 does a surprisingly good job. No flare or aberrations around the sun, and a decent amount of detail in the shadows without chromatic noise. The color rendition is nice, even though it cannot match the one of the Mavic 3. With the Mavic 3 the colors are always nice, as usual, but the results in low light are a bit disappointing. There is some luminance noise in the sky and some chromatic noise in the shadows. Furthermore, the shadows don't have much detail. It is as if the Mavic 3 in the rendition of the shadows has been overtaken by the new models with very wide aperture. Especially the Nano Plus, which is in another league for low light situations. Don't get me wrong, I use the Mavic 3 a lot and find it to be a great tool for a lot of things. But as some of you know, I'm not sponsored by any brands. I put the gear under the most difficult situations, and if I notice something wrong, I point it out to my community. I don't have to report to any manufacturers. In low light conditions, the Mini 3 puts up an excellent performance. It is amazing to see how much the last generation of the Mavic line has improved in the last couple of years. Noise is a thing of the past. And once again, the vertical shot looks amazing. Nice job by the little one. You can watch my in-depth reviews of photography with these two models by clicking on these two links. One for the Mini 3 and the other one for the Mavic 3. Don't forget to hit the like button if you found this video interesting. Thank you.